All right, good evening. This is the meeting for the April 17th agenda for the Town of Warren Zoning Board of Review. I am the chair, Andrew Ellis. To my right is the vice chair, Jason Rainone, followed by Jason Nystrom, Barrett Holby. Oh, there's Michael Elves, who is an alternate member. Mr. Francis is not here, who's a second alternate, and Chuck Thibodeau. The alternate member may participate, ask questions, but will not be a voting member unless one of the other 5 permanent members has to recuse or has a conflict on an application. The alternate is also available if any matter is continued, would be able to vote in that case if one of the regular members was not available for a continued hearing. If we do in fact have a quorum, so the first matter is to approve the minutes from the March 20th site visit and the March 21st regular meeting. Is there any discussion or is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. We have one matter of old business on the agenda. That would be application 2303. Joshua and Kimberly Ontario, owner and applicant. 996 Main Street, plat map 15C, lot 27. Request for a dimensional variance under 3, I think it's supposed to be 32, right? 32.5 D11 to allow a hen house less than the allowable setbacks in the R10 district. The representative of this application would like to come forward. I'll say for the record, this is I believe this is your 3rd visit. So you were originally here about a chicken coop. We gave you some conditional approval, and I believe you had to come back in 6 months after that approval. Was that or 3 months? Or
Yep.
you came back, and at that time there was some new town ordinance language pending, so we couldn't make a firm decision on that in light of the pending ordinance change, and so we reschedule you to come back now. And here you are, and I believe we do not have an ordinance change. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, no, at this time, we haven't got the final ordinance change. However, the property is in compliance. I worked with them to mitigate the issues, and we haven't any complaints. So on the advice of the solicitor to move forward on this case.
Mr. Chair, just the board, just kind of a quick reminder is back in 2023, February, you actually rendered a decision on this case. A written decision has been recorded. You actually did set not only 1, but 2 reviews. So if the applicants have any additional information or new information, so it can be put on the record and maybe open it up to the public, maybe just to see if there's any other issues going on. If not, just ratify the initial decision. I think that'd be appropriate.
So if we uphold the initial decision, would it be subject to, if there are changes in the ordinance, that they would then have to comply with whatever the current?
Correct, and there will be certainly changes to the ordinance. So that's appropriate.
Okay. Is there anything new you want to explain to the board since you were here last?
Yes, we rehomed most of our chickens, and so we're down to the 6.
Okay, so you're down to the 6.
We dismantled the existing chicken coop, and we gave it away.
Okay.
It was taken away on Saturday, and I built a coop that's on wheels. So wherever I'm allowed to put it once the ordinance is updated, I just wheel it over.
Well, that was very forward thinking.
I'm very tired of fighting with my neighbors.
I don't think we want to belabor this thing any longer than it's already been. So now we're over a year plus from the initial.
Yeah, because of some chickens.
Yeah.
So so that's what I did.
And so as the building official indicated, he's worked with you to make sure everything
I
is
submitted my
in
plans in
compliance.
advance and he approved them, and then I built them, and now they're there. I have pictures if you want.
But we can see if anyone wants those. But basically, can you affirm that the conditions we laid out on your original approval, you are abiding by in terms of whatever we gave you, the waste disposal and et
All,
cetera?
all of that's been
You're-
in place
you're
for a
following
very
the
long time.
pest
Yeah.
control.
I have removed the pest control because don't want to poison rats on my property. So I figured as long as we were in compliance with the original housing court issue, which was that we had too many chickens and the chicken coop was too close to our neighbors, that I wouldn't have to use a pest control service. We haven't seen rats on the property.
So was a pest control service part of the original decision? Maybe we should just re-review what were the points on the
I'll
original.
pass along the decision, conditions are listed.
I think our question at this
Yeah.
point would be, is pest control necessary
Since we're in
to
compliance.
have chickens in general in the town of Warren?
Well,
Because they're
here's-
not part of the
here's-
ordinance.
Here's what, so there isn't a new ordinance yet in effect, so when
But
that,
there's existing ordinance still.
correct.
Does not state that either.
Yeah, but we gave you conditions for the approval, so.
For the
coop-
approval of the variance, which I
Hold
don't
on.
need
Okay.
any.
Yeah.
So this says the coop must be cleaned every 3 weeks, cleaning out the bedding, compost material. Are you doing that?
Yep.
Reduce the chicken count to 6 by attrition. You've done that.
Well,
You're down to 6.
I'm down to 6.
You're down to 6. And it does say one of the conditions is using a licensed pest control company monthly to mitigate the rat issue. Now, if you want that condition removed, the board can discuss that and vote on it. But in granting any approval, the board has the authority to add conditions above and beyond what the original ordinance calls for.
What approval are we going?
So making this permanent. So
Making-
we're here, this decision that was this conditional decision that I signed on June 21st of 2023. Making this no longer subject to ongoing reviews, but making this the permanent decision until such time as the new ordinance comes in, and then you have to follow whatever is in that. So until the new ordinance comes in, you have to follow what is in here, or this board tonight has to make changes to what's in
So
here.
I thought that what we had come to ask was for a variance on the location of the chicken coop.
Nope, that's not what was advertised, I don't think. This is the re-review of the existing decision. We're not asking for different setbacks.
So just to clarify, the applicants before you, because they were before the housing court and there was an issue because they didn't meet the current standard for the housing of chickens on their property. So essentially, what you're doing is you're making a variance to allow them to have the chickens on their property. Without your variance, they wouldn't be able to have the chickens on the property.
Which is what we approved last
Yes,
year. So
that-
that is, we're not here to hear a new variance.
Correct. So, this is a review of what was heard in the last,
Correct. So we're here to review the decision we already gave you and see if all the conditions are still relevant and vote to make this what I'll call the permanent decision, and there won't be any further reviews. That's what we're here.
be one of the new ordinance.
Well, that's a different matter.
If you're in compliance with the new ordinance, which I think it's gonna change in benefit of the residents here, I don't think you're gonna have to come back.
Yeah, you wouldn't be.
That's my
I guess
feeling towards it.
Right, I guess our question is, we don't need the variance any longer.
Well, no, you currently do because there's no ordinance yet. The ordinance hasn't,
New ordinance.
so yes, they.
I'm sorry, I'm so.
So if you don't, so yes, you went down to the 6 chickens.
Yeah.
However, you don't meet the setbacks for the chicken, for the
If you tell me where I can
coop.
put, I will wheel the coop wherever you.
There's-
want me to
You
put it.
have permission to do that.
Okay,
So we're allowing you to have the coop there, however, that it goes under the variance because you don't have the setbacks. So if you need the variance to have the coop. So this
At all.
variance,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but do we need a variance to have the coop anywhere on our property?
yes, because you don't meet the setbacks, you don't have the proper setback for for a coop.
I think that was one of the discussions back when we approved this the first time is there is no viable place where the coop would be both satisfying the setbacks off the property line and far enough away from the residents to be able to satisfy both.
Is the garage
requirements.
counts as residence? Okay.
It does. Okay. I didn't realize
It's
that.
part,
was
it's
inside
part of the dwelling. So you can't get both far
Ooh.
enough away from the house and far
Okay.
enough away from the property line to
Mm.
put the coop anywhere on the property.
I think the garage is attached, right?
There's a breezeway. I don't know.
But I mean, yes, it's there's construction
Definitely.
touching the
Yeah.
two things. So that all counts as the residence, so as I'm recollecting,
Okay, that's a little strange.
there was no, if it was a detached garage, not physically touching the house in any way, that would be an accessory structure, which is different. But because it is physically touching the house as part of the same construction, it is considered part of the residence.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm so confused. We've been here so many
Yeah.
times. I just
So
really.
basically,
I thought spending my 2 week summer break, like spring break, redoing the chicken coop, I would just be done. And so,
yes,
For the
So,
certain.
so just so you can,
Yeah.
so we can kind of move forward on this.
Okay.
yeah, that'd be rad.
What you worked on, you mitigated the issue of the number of chickens. You worked on the coop. I approved the coop with the going to go along with this variance. Everything that you have right now until a new until a new ordinance comes out, which we are taking into consideration, your property as well as every other property in the downtown area that does not meet the standard. Then you would, at that time, you'll be able to meet the new ordinance. But right now, what you have with the rodent mitigation would allow you to keep what you have.
So I have to keep poisoning rats.
well,
That's one of the things we're talking about. We're not saying you definitely have to,
Yeah.
not saying you can definitely stop. That's one of the discussion points tonight.
Okay.
Okay, well, let's open up for discussion. I think,
Well,
the main,
so
okay.
the chair,
let me
right,
go through the.
we need to read, we just, for point of, because so much time has passed, the chair wants to go through the prior order of this board, which is currently the governing document, so that we can consider it as a board to see, is there anything that we want to change?
Okay.
All right, so we had the coop cleaned 3 weeks, reduced the chickens to 6. Then we had the licensed pest control company monthly. Then we had installation of more robust rat proofing, which I think you said you had installed the last time that you were here.
Because I've
Fencing, you
And
did
now it's an
something.
entirely different coop though, so it's,
I've
oh, again,
literally
they've worked.
dismantled everything and built a new coop.
So there's some thing in place that would qualify as more robust rat proofing than when you were first
I mean,
here.
To the best of
yeah,
my
that was our-
abilities. Yeah,
Okay.
I
That was
made
our
it so the chicken food is no longer ever outside. It's
Okay.
only in the coop. So assuming that that's what vermin enjoy the most, I
Okay.
removed it from their purview.
All right, so the composting on site must be within a legitimate, fully enclosed composting system.
which
Whatever
is-
does not fit must be dropped off or disposed of off-site, which I think we talked about the last time. You have an enclosed
Mhm.
Yep.
Composters.
method of dealing with that. Comply with applicable health and safety and other municipal regulations. We believe you're doing that. And the board will re-review this on October 18th, which was the original re-review date. And at that time, we moved you another 6 months from that to today. So it sounds like the only thing you want to debate on this original decision was the use of a pest control company.
Yeah, we've caught precisely one mouse in the past year, and so I'd really like to stop with the pest control. I also fundamentally don't believe in poisoning creatures on my property, as it's not good for the birds in the area as well. Big bird lover, hence the chickens. And so I'd really like to not have a pest control company come to my house.
And there's been no evidence of rats in months at this point.
Yeah.
And again, we've never caught any rat from the beginning of when we started the pest control.
Did you ever receive reports from the pest control companies? I think we asked about that last time.
I haven't received reports since the applicant has been here, but I haven't had any complaints either from any surrounding neighbors. And it's also not the summertime, so.
So is that because of the pest control, or is that because the chicken coop has been made better and chicken coop's relatively new? So how do we know which is which?
What came first?
You knew it was coming.
Clearly, there have been rats in New England since before I got chickens, so I don't really want to take full responsibility of rats in my neighborhood.
So how long has the new mobile coop been in operation?
I've had it for a month.
So the new mobile coop has been up and running for a month,
It has.
And there's been 6 chickens for about.
Mhm.
and you haven't had pest control during that.
No, as soon as I thought I was in compliance with the original housing court complaint, I canceled because I don't like it.
Okay,
ethics.
and if requested, do you have reports? And when you did have the pest control
Yeah, when I
company that
look at,
could be
when I look at the
supplied?
stuff that they just say that they've refilled the poison and there's no activity. That's all I've got. There's not like, they don't give us a whole lot. It's not a.
There's no
it's not
body
a-
count, but they
Well,
also don't
There's
say.
not like a narrative, really. It's just like a bill.
Well, if we needed something on file,
So it's kind of,
you could submit whatever you have.
I can absolutely
the
email
building
Matt
commissioner.
the things that have come up, the receipts.
Because we got them every
Yeah,
month.
they send them every month, the receipts. They come, they change out the things, but we haven't had any activity.
I mean, I think just for consideration, if we had seen continued rat problems, and we would have continued. Again, it kind of goes against what we believe in as far as how the most effective way of eliminating the rat population. But we were doing it. And we're just hoping that the new arrangement, especially with fewer chickens, composting, and the new coop, which is very secure, that it won't be a problem. Clearly, just like anybody, if anyone attracts rats with whatever it is that they have in their yard, we would do what we need to do. But at this point, there's been no activity.
So do we have to decide that, or can we leave it up to the building official?
No, it's in the decision.
We'll have to
Yeah,
decide.
so
We have to vote on removing that condition from the decision or modifying it in some way.
If we modified it, can we leave it up to the building official to restate it?
Yeah.
The discretion of the building official. You know, if complaints come in and there's evidence of rats, nuisance,
Yes, so
certainly could
we could insert a clause in this item C, using a licensed pest control monthly to mitigate the rat issue if deemed necessary by the building official with evidence of activity or pest activity,
So
if we
I
wanted
just-
to change
I
that.
just want to say that if my neighbor knew that the meeting was happening and that we were here, he would come and complain.
He's here.
Like,
So we're
I
gonna hear-
don't
we're
know
gonna
that
hear
he's
from him,
gonna
I
be
suspect.
satisfied with what's going on. And this is where it's really, really coming from. It's like, I fundamentally don't think it's our fault that there are rats in.
Well, we have to hear what he is going to say,
Yeah.
and
Sorry,
weigh
I
it
didn't
against,
hear Mark. I was like.
and weigh it
it's not-
against.
I
Right.
just don't want to fight anymore.
Yeah, you've given your information. The building official has stated that he hasn't received any complaints. You said you're willing to submit the reports from the pest control company
Yeah.
to go into the record. Do you have any, this seems to be the only issue that's really on the table here. Is there anything else?
No, I
You
mean, I
wanna-
just want to be done.
And again, we'll have time to hear from the public, and at the end, you guys will be able to come back. So I think part of what is going to go into our decision process is what everybody has to say. So
No, it's
I
fair.
understand.
Have any other questions of the applicant at this time before we go to the public? Okay, so if you want to just have a seat for a moment.
Yeah.
If anyone in the public would like to speak regarding this application, please come forward. Yeah, and again, you'll have to state your name and address so the stenographer can record that.
Good evening. My name is Mark Weiss. I live at 12 Truman Avenue, right here in Warren.
And you've been here for the 2 previous hearings.
I have.
All right, so please update us on your position regarding. this
So-
application.
My position hasn't really changed because, we had pest control out as recently, I want to say within the last month and a half
This is on your property.
on our property where the trap in question is right on the opposite side of the fence line as their chicken coop that abutted the fence. And the report that we got said that rat trap has seen high activity. And it's their direct result of chickens, right, wrong, or indifferent. Little less traffic on other 3 traps. The least amount of traffic was the one on the side facing the uphill neighbor. We also have one under our deck that saw minimal, if any. But the bait was totally gone on the rat trap in question, which is right on the opposite end of the fence.
So would you be willing to submit copies of those reports to
Yeah.
the building official for his
Yep.
records?
Sure would.
Let me ask you, can I ask, Mr. Weiss, have you this report you're referencing?
I have not submitted anything to the council or to the town.
Okay.
And
Is there a reason why you haven't?
Well, because I haven't been asked to, number one, and number two, you know, how many times do you have to hear me say that we have rats? I mean, if you need those documents, I'm more than happy to provide them. I don't have them with me tonight.
Is that since the new chicken coop has been up and, or is this?
I think it was right around the same time they were building their chicken coop. So they did text us to tell us that they were getting down to 6, and we appreciated that text. And in that message, they said that they were building a new chicken coop. And, but here again, I have questions about that. So it's said to be, so in this variance right now, they can pretty much have it wherever they want on their property.
Well, there is no place on the property where it could comply.
I know, but just for now, wherever it is, I would hope that it would be the furthest away from the property line. Like closer to whatever corner next to the street, and that's basically tying it away. But like, so right now, it's right up against butting up to the middle of the fence line, right on the property line. And apparently it's mobile.
Yeah, so the previous decision did not give any dimensional
Okay,
guidance
That's fine.
of where it went. We could ask the applicant when they come back if,
Mhm.
as we potentially change this condition about the pest control, that we could insert language about it going in a specific location.
Okay, so getting back to my original point. I'm sorry that the ordinance is written the way it is, but it is written for the benefit of all of Warren citizens, not a few. And it works. It's fair. It's been fair for as long as it's been in existence. You know, to change it now, it seems like we're catering to a few.
So
It
that
might
don't-
be more than them.
Yep,
And
so that's up to the town council to
Totally.
change the ordinance.
Understood.
We can only modify the conditions that are based on the current.
So that condition, which you just read, stated that they were allowed a composting vessel.
Yeah,
To which the last meeting, they were here telling us how they had 2 composting.
well, actually, it doesn't say a vessel, it says must be within a legitimate, fully enclosed composting system.
A system.
Well, I don't know, the system might consist of multiple containers, they're just not specified here.
So
I don't
the
know what
whole
the
point of
system
that
is.
singularity was to mitigate the amount of compost. And the excess would be disposed of.
Oh, no, actually, I think that's incorrect. The requirement of making it contained was so that you wouldn't just have like an open pit site. There's been
Okay.
testimony taken earlier that things were a little loose. There was a lot more stuff kind of moving around. By having it contained,
Okay.
the reasoning for our condition was there was like a lid. You know, rats couldn't climb in, stuff couldn't blow out. It would be
Okay.
sealed.
I guess my only question would be, how is this mobile chicken coop? And I don't know how it's set up. I don't know if it has an open bottom so that they can scratch around, what have you. But how would that be able to be cleaned on a monthly basis?
We can ask them that.
And the last time we were here, we weren't clean. We got the word that it wasn't being cleaned to specifications because it was raining. And it had been rainy and we weren't able to get to it and it was dark. And so it's gonna be later, I get it. But here again, they weren't.
Yeah, and I believe we said the last time that they need to comply with the monthly cleanings. And if there was a problem, then the building official would need to inspect that.
So I'm not in a position to monitor
Yeah.
how they clean it. Are we going on the honor system or are we having a monthly check-in? I don't know.
We can ask, when they come back up,
Okay.
we can ask them
And-
how frequently it's being cleaned.
Okay, and then, that's basically all I have because I still am seeing evidence of rats It's still costing me nearly $1,000 a year to do this, and it's not a bill that I feel I incurred. We were there a good 10 years before our neighbors moved in and no rats, and now we have.
So you did not use a pest control company on your property on a regular basis
We did not.
up until,
We saw rats,
which was,
I'm not it was back before this whole.
well, it was prior to them coming here in
Prior to them
February
coming here in February.
of
Exactly.
2023.
And so I know that we had upped our complaints around that time. So I'm sure that if you were to go back in the town records where we have complained and we gave our address, where we're calling from, I'm sure that in somewhere in those complaints mentions that you'll see a start mentioning how now we have rats.
And you've not filed any more specific complaints since February?
No, because there hasn't been any roosters, which is great. And the story is the same. Just basically, we're still dealing with an ongoing rat problem. And we were basically told when we made that initial complaint or those initial complaints that, hey, this is gonna be happening, that you bring up at this particular meeting. That like, hey, your rat problem, there's multiple houses in Warren that have rat problems, so welcome to the club, so to speak.
Yeah,
When
I
they were
think-
doing the rat mitigation. was
I'm
there-
sorry?
When they were doing it, we were doing it month to month for a while there, right? Yeah, come on. They were doing it, they were there every month. There was no change on your property?
There was still evidence of rat. It had changed away from the house, but on that property line, still heavy sign of rat.
Let me ask, Mr. Weiss, let me just ask you this. When you say evidence of rat, what does that mean to you?
That means those traps that had bait in them that were full, like more than double that what they usually put in for a month to month, were empty of bait.
Okay, are you seeing rat? Like, are you physically seeing the rats? Are you seeing rat droppings? Are you seeing, rats can scratch up the lawn? I just want to make sure, because I want to understand where you're coming from.
So right now, it's been like winter, the ground is like really ugly, so to speak, so it's all crabgrass patchy. I really don't see physical trails, physical treks. In the past, when I walked around with the exterminator, they're always quick to say, oh, see that little line right there? That's a trail. That's where they're running right down. And then when you look at what he's seeing, yeah, okay, that makes sense. So I'm just going by what that professional says.
Okay,
I'm
and
not trying to add anything.
no, and like I said, I'm just trying to understand, just so
Right.
we all have a better sense of it, because it's a concern to you. But the traps, are they like just kind of like an open dish? What do they look like?
So they are the standard traps, just like you have around this building from the big blue bug, where those box unit.
Boxes with a hole in it.
Black box with the hole in it with bait inside.
Okay.
We don't have traps inside them because traps were huge. And if squirrels got in there, that was one of the concerns for my wife. She hates rats, but like squirrels, I don't know. Well, she's fickle.
Let me ask you this, is it possible something else other than rats is going in and eating the bait? Or do you not know?
I have no idea.
Okay.
When they replaced all the gas lines down Main Street, did they go that far?
I don't think so.
You didn't go that far?
I don't think so, but
Oh, I remember that situation.
I don't.
Because we had to get rid of rats. It took us like.
I think you brought that up in the
Yeah.
very first.
Yeah,
meeting.
they,
So
so
the first meeting we
dislodged them
Yeah.
all the way up Main Street. It was a major problem.
So the first meeting we had back a year or so
Yeah.
ago, prior to that summer prior to that, I believe is when that work was done. It was also a drought summer, which
Yeah,
I was told
We
in that
talked
meeting
about
was a
that.
cause to rats will go wherever and find water or whatever. So we took up our bird bath, we took up every standing thing that had standing water. We used to feed birds, but now we don't. We haven't fed birds since we saw rat number 1, and that hasn't mitigated the rat problem. So,
But you haven't physically seen any dead rats on your property.
I have not. So I don't know where they are, if they're going back to a burrow, because it's not a trap. and dying in there or getting sick. I don't know the efficacy of what they're eating. I don't know what's eating it.
Do you own a cat?
I do own a
I
cat.
was going to.
Has the cat ever brought a rat back for you?
So I have a pen, a catio that I built for the cat. The cat goes from the sliding glass door to the pen, from the pen back to the sliding glass door.
So the cat doesn't have access to the exterior in general,
So
in a
occasionally
free way.
it'll run away from my wife, go into the shed. My wife has to go back to work and maybe it's out there for an afternoon, but it has not.
But you've never seen evidence of a rat brought back by the cat?
No,
There's no evidence that the
I
cat
haven't
is
seen
killing rats?
Birds and food.
Okay, so the only evidence you have is that the exterminator has indicated that the baits that are placed in the trap that's next to the fence line are empty when
Correct.
he returns.
That is correct.
So something has consumed those and
Something is
pest control professional believes it to be rat activity that's consumed.
correct. And the next time he's out, maybe he can come up with a system that he puts something in his trap and he gets tracks of whatever the heck is in there. I don't know if that's even
I
feasible,
have no idea.
but I mean, that would answer a big question. What is getting into that bait? I feel. But I can bring that up to him.
And you heard the testimony previously from the applicant that they're saying that their pest control setup on their property when they had it active, that there were reports that the baits were not consumed.
Understood. Yep.
Yeah.
So
You guys don't have the same pest control company, do you?
probably do. I'm not sure. I have Big Blue Bug.
It is Big
Same.
Blue Bug.
So
Is it the
apparently
same
one's
guy?
not talking to the other. I have no idea. It could be regional. Yeah, it's a different person every time. You could stop at one place, stop at the other. I have no way of knowing. However, all I have is.
Nor do we have any way of knowing.
Right, exactly. All I have is the reports he gave.
All right.
All right.
So I think it may be reasonable. We may ask you for the persons who have filed a formal complaint in the past to submit whatever records you want to
Okay.
bolster your claim to the building official.
Okay,
And they're gonna submit their records also to the building official.
yeah, that's fine.
So then at least we have some kind of documentation on file, something that supports
Agreed.
your claim and something that supports their position.
Agreed.
Okay, was there anything else?
Not that I would just be repeating, because, you know,
That's fine. We don't,
that's the.
Need to go
that's
into
the-
that.
How, that's basically personal,
we don't need that.
No. so I'll spare it.
Okay,
We've already heard.
I think we understand the issue.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public that wants to speak on this application? See no one else. So you two can come back to the podium, please. So it's back to the board here. So the matter under consideration is whether or not we want to modify the pest control company requirement to be that it's at the discretion of the building official. I mean, that's really the only thing, unless there's other conditions we want to so impose.
I think that's the simplest one to do. It stops them from coming.
Yeah, I mean, we heard some commentary about telling them a specific place away from the neighbor's property to put it.
I think with the impending
Yeah.
changes to the ordinance, it makes sense, since we now know that the coop itself is mobile, it makes sense to just allow that to be dealt with once the new ordinance is established. There's no reason to presuppose that.
So there may still be no viable place dimensionally that the coop could go anyways. I don't know what's in the new ordinance, but yeah, I would agree that at this time, if we were to say, oh, it has to be 15 feet from the neighbor's property or something, it's not going to be relevant because whatever the new ordinance says, it's not like you have the coop in a place on your property that was a conflict now, but there was some other place where you could move it to that would meet the current ordinance. It doesn't exist because of the dimensions. around it.
Yeah, I mean, based on the definition of
Yeah.
the household and the garage, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we have the Western variances, the edges, property lines.
Yeah, no, I understand. I think we were confused about whether or not that counted. But I mean, I can also say that just walking around the neighborhood, we're not the only ones who have rats. I've seen rat traps blocks away on other houses. I don't think it's all because of us.
Well, again, you're gonna submit your documentation. to
I
building
already sent
official,
them to Matt.
And your neighbor's gonna submit his documentation to
Yeah.
support his claim.
I would just really like to mention that his garbage cans are also very close to where the chicken coop was, and I do know that rats also love garbage, so it might really not just be me.
Well, that, whether
Just
that is a
felt
fact.
like
or
I
not a
felt like I
factor.
needed to put that out there. It's
We
like,
have
it's
Mr.
never
Chair,
the only
yes.
thing in the area.
If I may just, recommend or suggest maybe, it looks like the hottest months are the biggest problem, the most problematic, like July and August. So maybe mandate those 2 months, with the contract for those, June, July, August. Therefore, we'll put the burden on the town official to always make that determination. If, I think what we heard was that, you know, the hottest months are probably the most problematic. So if the board decides that, if it's a good idea, again, it's your discussion, to lock in those 3 months or 2 months, not put a financial burden on them, same time, address the neighbor's issue in part. That's something that the board could also do.
Yeah, but so if we made it June, July, August, or whatever we wanted to do here, that would then be in perpetuity, right? Because once it goes down the decision, because if they didn't want to do that anymore, they'd have to come back again. Rather than just
As long as they
saying,
have the chicken,
as long as they have the coop.
correct, it's the same thing, it's always a preference.
So, hope that we've closed the public.
Just a thought for the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, in regards to why we stopped it, again, we thought we were now in compliance. We didn't realize that we still needed a variance either way. If it's the decision to return the pest control today, we will. I don't think it's making a difference. But again, we have our evidence, he has his evidence. Nobody wins except for the big blue book.
So whatever goes down, whatever is recorded in land evidence records, whatever we decide here, stays for the rest of time until you either get rid of the coop or come back and ask for something different. So if we say you have to reinstate the pest control tomorrow, regardless of whatever the new ordinance says, you have to keep having pest control for
Right.
as long as you have the chicken.
But I mean, what else? What of other people and their chicken coops? Do they? have
We've
the
never
same
heard
things?
another chicken coop. This
You
is-
guys are the Seminole
This is
chicken
just
case.
it.
We win. Okay, so
I've been here 12 or 13 years and you're the only chicken coop.
and for like 3 of those years, you've been talking to us.
That's why that's why the process for your petition is played out the way it has.
Yeah, this is great.
It's not.
Okay. No, it's
not great.
No, I know. It's
Really
very stressful. So I guess the question is, again, and we sort of talked about this the last few times. If any household is a public nuisance in any way, they're attracting rodents, they have garbage, they have bad smells, they have whatever, then that's when people get called in. There are inspections, there are consequences. At this point, we've done everything we can to mitigate all of that. Obviously, we don't like rats either. If the rats came back, we would find a way of dealing with it. And we did for a while as well on our own, until, I guess it started affecting other people. But again, we just have the information we have.
All right, well, I think I want to get the board's sense of what their position is on whether or not we need pest control or what kind of pest control we think is appropriate.
At this point, I think I'm inclined to add the clause that it's at the discretion of the building official. I'm not comfortable with the idea of having these folks be bound to a pest control contract in perpetuity, regardless of what the new ordinance may or may not say. So I think we need to have a mechanism in place that allows for the building official to sort of mitigate that situation and be able to weigh whether or not the information being presented by the applicants matches with any potential complaints that they may be getting from the neighbors, and be able to look at both sides of that argument and decide whether or not requiring one chicken coop within town to abide by a more stringent requirement than what the new ordinance may say, that
Yeah.
seems excessive.
Yeah, I think that perhaps the building inspector should weigh the evidence that we've asked to be submitted, the neighbors' pest control reports, the applicant's pest control reports, and then should any other formal or ongoing complaints be lodged with the building official, then he has to look at the evidence he has available, perhaps visit the site, and weigh what he believes are the appropriate means to remedy the situation. Because I also think that I don't particularly want to impose a certain number of months or forever or anything of that nature. Or if we do decide to change, I mean, we could decide we're going to stay with what's already approved. Jason Nystrom, what do you think?
I'm inclined to agree with what Mr. Reynold's indicated. I agree. I have concerns about requiring something that for perpetuity that may be, mooted or, not required by anyone else. But also, I think I would agree. I think a lot of the major issues that we've asked them to address have been addressed. I think they've done, it's the things they've done have been reasonable. But that's also not to take away from the complaints of Mr. Lees and some of the other rebuttals. And I think by having any sort of complaint process, flow through the building official, I think that gives any interested party the ability to make a complaint. And I think part of that, though, it needs to be, it can't just be a word versus word or he said, she said. It's, look, I got rats. I've got trail cameras. I've got, a report backing this up. I would be in favor of
Altering
the order.
Mr. Holby,
I'm agreeing with that.
Mr. Ellis, what's your opinion on it? Just
I'm the same.
say, and,
I agree with that also.
all right, so it sounds like the board's preference would be to modify item C of the previously granted decision using a licensed pest control company monthly to mitigate the rat issue, and then comma, at the discretion of the building official as deemed necessary via documentation of a potential problem.
That sounds right.
We've closed the
Can I
public.
ask a question?
What's the question?
So really, at what point do we say, oh shoot, I didn't know the ordinance, but I willfully decided to stop doing something before this meeting? Do we turn around and say, hey, if I break the law?
We're not litigating that.
I understand, but at the same time, it's every meeting. There's an example of that. Oh, I didn't know. And it's a pass. And so here again, I pay taxes in this town too. And you just said that, we want to be fair, and I agree with you. It shouldn't be a lifetime term. Can we consider a continuance until we meet again, until we decide on what the town says? If they say it's allowed, then we come up with a different scenario. If they say it's not allowed, then situation solved.
So I think this board is at the end of the time we want to commit to this matter, speaking for myself, and I believe for the rest of the board, that at the first meeting, and we also have to think what's fair for the applicant, we told them that there would be a decision 6 months from the first meeting. They came back in 6 months and we couldn't give them a decision then. We said, we will give you a final decision 6 months from that time. Now, here we are 6 months again. So I don't think, in fairness to the applicant, we can keep kicking this down the road. They're going to have to comply with whatever the new ordinance says. And if they don't want to comply with the new ordinance, then they will have to come back here again. But the item we're discussing is whether the monthly pest control has to remain unchanged from what was previously approved, or if we want to modify that such that it would be required at the discretion of the building official. So if you have ongoing rat problems, you call the building official, say, here's my reports. I'm still getting, the baits are being eaten. Here's reports. He's going to has to look at the reports. He's going to have to look at the reports that the applicant submits. And he's going to have to decide what he feels is appropriate. If he thinks there's a need to reinstate the pest control on their behalf, then they're going to have to do it.
And I'm worried too, even with the pest control, I'm afraid our neighbor is not going to be happy with any chickens at all. And I don't know what to do about that. I mean, I'm trying to be a good neighbor. I understand what Mark said, that, well, we dropped this. We weren't making excuses. It's been a month. We still have the traps out. They are still baited. It is a matter of whether or not they've been refilled, if they've even needed to be refilled. So yeah, maybe we skipped a month and we shouldn't have, and I'm sorry.
But I rebuilt the chicken coop and to make it easier to clean, to make it more secure for the dropping. So when I do clean it out, there's less dropping everywhere. I've done everything that I can do short of just getting rid of the chickens. And they bring a lot of joy and eggs to my house, and they are our pets. I've already given away 5 of them. And so I'm really doing my best. And I don't think it's fair to say that we're serial not compliers. Like everything that you've told me to do, I have done to the best of my ability.
I think we've heard evidence that everything on the list you've done, with the exception of 1 month where you lapsed with the the pest control people.
There hasn't even been a month.
I wish everyone,
I think
we wish we could fix this problem. I don't know how to fix it unless we were told we're not allowed to have chickens.
We're about to do
We
it
will
now.
have chickens.
So
Okay.
let's
Okay.
do that.
Yeah, so is there any further discussion?
No.
Is there a motion on this?
Mr. Ellis, if I may,
Yes.
I'm sorry, just to make sure that the people initially voted on that,
Oh.
participating members, I know it's been a little bit of time, but as you know, that any member to make a decision tonight has to be from prior.
All right, well, we don't have the same 5
How
people.
many people do you have?
We
That's
have
fine.
4.
You can do 4.
All right,
Because
so
those members heard the entire.
need myself, Mr. Elves, Mr. Niceman, Mr. Holby, you won't be voting.
Oh, no.
So, and Mr. Thibodeau, you won't be voting either.
Right.
So it's myself, Mr. Elves, Mr. Niceman, and Mr. Rainone. Mr. Francis also voted, but he's not here, but we can go ahead with 4 people instead of 5.
You got this.
So
I got this one.
Mr. Rainone is going to, sound like, make a motion.
All right, so in regards to application 23-03, Joshua and Kimberly Conterio?
Yeah.
Owner and applicant, 996 Main Street, plat map 15C, lot 27, request for dimensional variance under section 32.5 D11 to allow a hen house with less than the allowable setbacks in the R10 zoning district. This board will affirm and make permanent the decision of June 21st, 2023.
What was signed on?
That would be when it's official.
It goes into the deed book. Just say, as of the date recorded in the land evidence records for the decision signed on the 21st of June, 2020.
I like that. We will make that decision permanent, and in making this decision, we will note that the applicant has met all of the requirements that were laid out under that decision to the satisfaction of this board. We will further amend those conditions going forward to include in section 3, subsection C, that using a licensed pest control company monthly to mitigate the rat issue, we will add to that requirement the clause at the discretion of the building official based on available evidence from the applicant and any abutters.
Okay, are there any conditions, other conditions or amendments to the motion? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so it's 4-0 that the decision has been modified. And again, when the new ordinance comes in, you'll be required to comply with whatever that indicates you need to do.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right.
We're gonna miss you guys.
You can have that
I'm
back.
not gonna. It's been fun.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes old business. Now we jump into the new business. Application 2410, Tammy Stallings, owner and applicant, 12 Ridgeway Drive, plat 15A, lot 220, requesting a special use permit to allow for home daycare in the R10 zoning district. So good evening. Please identify yourself by name and address so the stenographer can.
I am Tammy Stallings of 12 Ridgeway Drive in Warren.
Mr. Chair, if I
Yes.
may.
Yeah.
Administrative in nature. Under definition, so when I looked at this application, I started to think whether or not this is technically a family daycare or it's just a
Well, I
daycare.
had a question in general. Is there an existing special use permit that allowed her to have the 8 children? Because it seems that the request is to change from 8 to 12 children. So I'm wondering what
I
gave her
don't know.
permission to have the 8?
But I think that my conversation will maybe even change it
Okay.
and give you an answer there. So it says a family daycare home, any home other than the individual's home in which they care in lieu of parental care or supervision is offered at the same time to 6 or less individuals who are not relatives or caregivers, but may not contain more than 8 individuals receiving daycare, meaning they can have 6 plus 2 of their own.
Okay.
Okay, that's what home daycare.
In a home that's not their own?
Correct. Individuals, kids that they're watching.
Oh, the kids that
Yeah,
they're watching is
correct.
not, she can
Yep.
watch kids in
Yep.
her own home,
Correct.
2 of hers.
Yes,
And
that's
a maximum of 6. of-
individuals, doesn't have to be kids.
Fine.
In contrast, just a daycare or daycare
Yeah.
center is clear, just states any other daycare center that is not a family daycare.
So do you have 2 of your, did you,
No, I do not.
Do you have
According
any of
to
your-
DHS,
Yeah.
which is the Department of
Yeah.
Human Services, we can have up to 8 with an assistant
As a daycare center or?
as a family childcare home.
so it seems to conflict. So the ordinance, from what I'm hearing, seems to define 2 different things, a family daycare setting and then what I'll call a general daycare setting. That the
Correct.
family daycare has a maximum of 6 individuals that are not your children and up to 2 of your own children. So if you have 8 currently that are not your children, it sounds like based on the definition, it never was a family daycare. It was a general daycare.
Correct, and actually, now you go to the use table.
Yeah,
And the use table does allow a daycare or daycare center in a residential use, in a residential neighborhood or district with a special use permit. So she certainly, if that's what she had before us, certainly she has the right to ask for a special use permit.
so what did she have before?
I'm not 100% sure what she had before in terms of a special use permit. We would have to do some research on. I don't know. Maybe
Because
she can fill us
We
in
would
on-
want, we would want to know if there were conditions granted on a special use that allowed you to have the 8 that you currently have. Like if whoever granted permission for you to do that, how long have you had this daycare?
Right now, I've had it since 2019.
All right, so there were definitely zoning ordinances in place. then.
I applied through DHS.
Yeah.
DHS is the one
Yeah,
that said I did not have to go before zoning until I went up to 12.
okay, but it seems to be.
I was reading Rhode Island
Yeah.
general law,
Yeah.
unless there's something different that she complained to. Certainly would have to.
Does our ordinance say specifically a number in it, or is this just Rhode Island general law that you're pointing to?
It's both, it's copied,
Oh, it's
copy paste.
our ordinance copies
Exactly.
that you can have up to 8.
In fact, the family daycare home
Yeah,
is permitted
yeah,
by
by
right
right.
in an R40, R20, R50, and R10, R6. So I think what she's trying to do is she's gonna change it because the number's changing under the current Rhode Island general law and town ordinance from maximum of 6/8.
Yeah,
And how many trying to go to now?
12.
Going to 12
so the thing you had before was by right,
by right,
in theory.
correct?
She doesn't have any of her own kids, so there might have been some slight.
I do, but they're grown.
Correct, they're not in that. Oh, were they ever
Correct.
in this? thing?
Yes.
Oh, so when you, in 2019, were they in this?
No,
No.
no, they were of age. They were older.
They were already old.
Yes.
So from the beginning of 2019, you've had 8 of.
I go anywhere from 6 to 8 a day. It's not all the same.
All right.
The days vary.
So basically you want to, whatever you did in the past, you want 12 now.
I want to go up to 12 because I have siblings
Mhm.
of children that have gone off to school in kindergarten that want to come back during school vacations and,
Fine, and she needs a special use permit.
For a daycare center, but that might change.
but it's
regular-
not considered a daycare center. It would be considered a family group.
family group,
It'll be considered a family
not a
group.
family daycare.
It's a family daycare, but a family group daycare. The most I can have in my home is 12 if I get the group license.
So is there state law that,
There might be an additional area of a group versus a daycare. I'm not.
the ordinance doesn't specify anything to that?
I mean, there is a letter in here from DHS.
Yeah,
Yes.
I saw the letter.
I will say the letter from DHS, essentially from my reading, essentially just says they've done a measurement of the space. We confirm you've got square footage for that number of kids. It doesn't say anything about what your classification is or that DHS is giving the sign off. They're just basically saying, hey, we've been given the plan specs. You know, you've got enough space to do this. That doesn't necessarily, from my reading, that doesn't necessarily equate to them saying, yeah, go ahead and you have the okay.
So it also doesn't say what they're, it doesn't say, this is a family group daycare, this is a daycare. It doesn't list whatever category that supposedly the state law is referencing to define this.
And I guess one question in that respect is, from a town standpoint, do we care? If it's more than 8 kids,
I
we're at a
had a
daycare.
family group before. I was located at 126, no, at 45 Kickamuit, the corner of Everett and Kickamuit. And I was there from 2000 and let me see this. 2001.
What's the section of the ordinance that specifically talks about this daycare situation?
It's just under the definitions. It's both on the Rhode Island general law and town ordinance.
It's in the definition. Yep. It's on page.
But I was licensed as a
So the
family
table for
group
public
in
consumption
town.
use just
until
lists daycare, center,
2010.
preschool,
For special use.
under special use.
And then where's the family thing that says it's by right?
Family daycare home is permitted by right under residential uses. So this.
And then there's a definition in the ordinance of what the ordinance is considering a family. So there may, yeah.
Mr. Chair, and this may be the answer as on the Rhode Island 42-12.5-2 definitions. 10 group family daycare home,
Yeah,
which is different than what we're talking about,
Yeah.
right? Means a residence occupied by an individual of at least 21 years of age who provides care for not less than 9 and not more than 12
okay.
children.
Okay.
With the assistance of one or more approved adults. I think this is what we're
Yeah,
going.
but she's going.
But the
But the
conclusion came as
ordinance,
it was.
so our ordinance doesn't have a definition for family group
Correct.
daycare. It only has daycare home and then daycare
Daycare center.
center.
Mr. Solicitor, the way you read that, it said not less than 9, not more than 12. So if there's ever a situation where the stalling says less than 9, is that going to be a problem?
It's no longer considered a. So now that's what it says.
So if it's less than 9, it's not considered that use, is that correct? So if she had 7, it's considered something else.
So it would fall back on to not needing.
Yeah, we'll go back
That's
to,
right.
Okay, so then it would revert.
yeah.
To by right.
Right, correct.
So
And I
can we,
don't want 12 children at all times. I want to increase to the 12 so that my school age kids can come back during vacations in summer.
Mr. Chair, considering the updates with the Rhode Island general law in terms of zoning a special use permit, I would recommend just to proceed with the special use permit. However, I just want to clarify what she's asking for here versus just a family daycare. You're right, it's considered a
Family group.
group family
Yes.
daycare.
so we could cite that based on the definition in state law of a family group daycare,
Correct.
that is what we would be
Yes.
approving for her.
Correct, and that would
as a
actually
special
assist
use.
her with her, again, her
Yeah.
licensing and all regular approvals as a proper thing to approve. And again, a special use permit is, appropriate standard.
Okay, so you want to have a family group daycare that has between 9 and 12 children.
Yes.
Is there anything else relevant you want to
Well,
talk?
I just want to. I just want to
Depends
say,
on who
all
you
16
ask.
generations.
Yeah,
So, I
These are
took
some of
it,
your-
yes, these are some of my clients. I have, Debbie who's in the front. I had her 2 children and now she has her grandchildren and they are coming to me. Nikita in the green
Mhm.
is, I took care of her when she was little and now her 3 children come to me. So generations are coming back. And once they go off to school, I have my preschool and little babies in the morning, but yet the big kids still want to come back.
Okay. And we've noted your letter from Department of Human Services saying that your property and staffing meets the requirements for that. That you're in compliance.
Yes, and I did just, I don't know if any of you are familiar with daycare, but I did just do a Bright Stars increase as well.
I don't know what that is. but you
It's
want to enlighten us?
a level, an upper level on how they rate.
It's like
their
an
child care
accreditation or
program.
something?
Yes.
Yeah. So you have all the necessary, you have all the necessary licensing in place and
Yes.
accreditations that are satisfactory to the Department of Human
Correct.
Services.
And just for the applicant, Ms. Stallings, correct me if I'm wrong, but this also, you also kind of go by the name Happy Campers?
Yes.
Okay. I will say I'm,
Does anyone have to recuse themselves?
no, I'm familiar with the area. So I'd,
Are you not a happy camper?
no, I'm a very happy camper. Yeah, we're on fire tonight. No, I was gonna say is, I'm familiar very much with the neighborhood. And it's based on the observation, the cars that are there for around the pickup and drop off times.
Correct.
I do not think that adding another handful of kids is gonna be an issue.
Yeah.
Causing any sort of traffic flows with the street.
And they're siblings, so when they drop off and pick up, they're picking up somebody that's already there on
Yeah.
top of it.
So the expanded capacity is really to allow an individual family to drop off more children, not
Correct.
really increasing traffic.
Correct.
Other questions for the applicant at this time? Okay, I'll open it up to public comment, other than, if we need our clients to comment, we can ask, but anyone else in the general public that's not affiliated with this applicant? Do you want particularly to have any testimony from any of your clients?
They want
It-
to.
it
they
appears-
They don't necessarily need to.
I think it appears that you've established, you have a track record of successful multi-generational
Yes.
care. I think we're satisfied that she's demonstrated that. That it's a business that obviously she manages well and has been successful.
And the neighborhood doesn't seem to have issues, so.
We've not heard anything about it. Anything else you'd like to share with us? Okay, any other discussion, or is there a motion on this application?
You want to do this one?
I can give it a shot.
I'll make sure you reference the state law as our basis.
Yeah, Mr. Solicitor, can I have the state,
It's 42-12.5-2, 10. And it's group family daycare home. And any motion should have a condition approval of state or local fire health approvals.
Great.
That's quite a lot.
yeah. All right,
We don't
I'm
have any changes to special use conditions as of right now.
good, all right.
We're good to go with the regular ones.
I move approval of application number 24-10, Tammy Stallings, owner and applicant, 12 Bridgeway Drive, plat map 15A, lot 220. Request for a special use permit to allow for a home daycare in the R10 zoning district. In granting this approval, we find that the special use will be compatible with the neighboring land uses. Indeed, there is already a family daycare that is allowed to be operated as a matter of right at this location, and that we are granting a special use permit for what's called a group family daycare home under Rhode Island General Law 42-12.5-2 subsection 10. We find that the special use will not create a hazard in the neighborhood. Again, this is essentially expanding by up to four additional children, the amount of people that can, or children that can be at this facility. And again, there's been testimony given by the applicant that this is primarily done to allow siblings of existing clients to come. So there will not be enhanced traffic or any other sort of nuisance in the area. We find that the special use permit would be compatible with the community comprehensive plan. Again, this is expanding an existing Warren business with quite a long track record, and it's allowing local Warrenites and their families to spend time together at this daycare as siblings get older. And we find that the public convenience and welfare will be served for the exact same reasons. As special conditions, we will condition this approval on that the applicant receive all required and applicable state, local, and health and safety regulations, including Department of Health and Human Services, and any other accreditations you may need to operate this operation.
In fire and building.
In fire and building.
Yes.
Okay, are there any other conditions or amendments? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so it's approved 5-0, and thank you for educating us on the different types
Thank
of
you.
daycare. Have a good evening. All right, the next matter of new business is application 2411, Stephen Delaire, owner and applicant, 27A Laurel Lane, plat 13E, lot 39, a request for a special use permit to allow an accessory dwelling unit in the R10 district. We have one recusal on this. Mr. Elves will be stepping aside for this matter to seek a conflict. So good evening. If you want to identify yourself as a stenographer.
I'm Steve Delaire from 27A Laurel Lane, Warren.
Yeah. So just before we, Mr. Solicitor, so does this application have or is impacted in any way by recently passed state legislation?
The only restrictions that we can apply to 600 square feet, one additional parking spot. I think that's it. Other than that, it's almost a lot of it's by right.
Okay.
Yep.
And do we have any dimensional issues, Mr. Zoning official, on this property?
I have a little sketch that I drew up of the apartment with some measurements on it.
Well, yes, well, so my basic question is, if he's allowed to have an additional dwelling unit by right, why is he here for a special use permit unless there's some problem? Is there a dimensional problem that he can't meet the dimensional requirements?
Though he's got 21,000 square feet, it's not an R20.
Correct, that's
So-
correct.
So it's only by right in the R20 with 20,000 or more. If it's in any lot less than R20, it is not allowed by right, and he requires a special use permit.
That's correct.
Okay, so since he has to have a special use permit, do we have to record then any dimensional discrepancies if the property is not in compliance with the requirements of that zone? So I don't know what his existing setbacks are, et cetera.
If there's not an addition, an alteration to the exterior of the property, I'll be okay with just a special use permit, considering all the changes that are taking place. Again, if he would almost have to do it by right if he was in the R20.
Right. So this is all within the footprint of the existing
Yes,
structure, and you're not going up,
it's an apartment above the garage.
but it's already there.
It's already there. It's
I mean,
been
the
there.
space is already there.
Yes, it's been there. My father built it
All right, so there's no
45 years
expansion-
ago.
There's no expansion of the
No.
building or the building's footprint or
No.
anything.
No,
So explain why you would like to have an accessory dwelling unit on your property.
well, we were contemplating on putting our house up for sale and downsizing, and the real estate agent that I was talking to try to get ideas and stuff said that, asked me if that apartment was legal. And I said, I assume so. It's been here since I was a little kid. My father had it built, many years ago. So I came to the town and I asked the lady at the counter, and she looked it up and she said no. And she said I would have to go in front of you to get a special use permit for an ADU, I believe it's called. So So here I am.
So since if it was built before the ordinance was enacted, is it automatically grandfathered in? Like if you said
No,
it bothers,
it's changing the use.
he's changing the use.
By now, correct, is it being,
It,
the town
originally,
never, sorry?
originally my grandfather lived there and then, my wife's sister lived there for a little while.
It's an
It's
accessory.
been used that, but not legally,
Yeah,
therefore it's a change in use. I mean, town records indicate it's blank, there's nothing there, therefore. he's proposing
It
to-
does show that the bedroom's there, the bathroom's there, and the kitchenette.
But does it predate our rules?
like has someone been living there since
40
before?
years.
Well, here's the
They were
question.
ruled 40 years.
Does a kitchen exist in that?
Yes,
What type of kitchen? Like, is it,
like a regular kitchen. It's got a regular stove,
That's what
refrigerator,
use
thing.
permit would legally make the record clean versus something that is grandfathered in or their vested rights.
So I'm sorry, you are selling the property,
We're very close to
And-
deciding to do so, yes.
and in order to sell the property, the Realtor wants to confirm that you have a legal basis to have that ADU.
Yes,
All right, so even if it
and
was,
we're not 100%
Yeah.
sure that we're gonna sell it.
Okay.
But with,
so I think even if it was grandfathered in, when the change of ownership happened, I'm not even sure that would.
carry
Like,
over?
if you were just coming here to try to clean it up for your own purposes, that might be a different discussion. If you're thinking about selling it, then we need to provide a legal basis for saying that that thing has documentation.
yes, and I have a little sketch of it if you'd like to see.
I actually
not?
think the information that we have in the documents we've been provided.
That looks a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think ultimately we only need the footprint,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, we just need to know if it's 600 square.
Yeah, it's
Garage.
23 by 24.
And then you walk around the side, go up the stairs, there's a little deck. And then this is the living room, dining room, kitchen. And then the bathroom and the bedroom.
So I'm just gonna go back, because this came up a couple years ago with an ADU situation involving a kitchen that could have mooted the whole thing. So this might sound like a silly series of questions, but your kitchen, does it have a refrigerator?
Yes,
Does it have like a range?
yes, electric range,
Electric range that plugs in, so it's like, you know, stove oven?
a regular
All
30-inch, 4 burners on the top and then.
right, that ends it, okay. yeah.
Then it's, yeah.
Yep.
And you want to sell the property as having, it's advantageous to you to sell the property as having, if you do sell it,
To make it legal.
to make it legal.
And I don't want to be in an illegal, I never realized I was in an illegal form
Versus-
to begin with.
If
So I
you,
wanted to clarify it anyway.
if you took the stove out.
Yeah.
It would just be considered as another space in your house for entertaining guests or whatever you want to do with it. But you want it clearly defined as an accessory dwelling unit, so then someone who potentially buys your property could rent that out.
Yes,
I see.
or I could potentially
you
rent
could.
it out, yes.
Fine. All right, so he wants an accessory dwelling unit.
It's less than 450 square feet.
It's
So
less than 450, so it's within the 600.
We had 576.
You got what?
I thought it was 576.
Well, let's check the map. We've got 18 feet 9 on this sketch by 23 2. That's not including the deck, which is external to that.
On this sketch, it's 24 by 24.
Well, the garage is 24 by 24, but it's a gambrel. So the walls,
Oh, so the usable space.
the
It
usable
says
space
right here,
up top.
you labeled it here, 415 square.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's 415 or 515 or 599, as long as it's under 600.
Okay.
So you meet the criteria that it's under 600 square feet.
Okay,
Okay, and do you have one additional parking? How many parking?
I have
spaces?
6 parking spaces.
Okay, well, then you have enough for the primary residence plus this.
Okay,
So he's got parking and he's got the size.
As far as waste removal, do you have dumpsters for this? How do you do with the trash?
no, we have the big blue bin and the big green bin. We wheel
Just the
down.
ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we share the same barrel. I mean, those barrels are pretty big, so.
Gotta ask.
Yeah, and it's also the same boiler for the main house heats that apartment, the same electric meter electrifies.
At one time that was relevant, but I believe that's no longer relevant, correct? utilities don't have to be in.
Correct, yeah.
Yep, not relevant.
No
Okay.
regulations. As long
So
as
all you have to do is have 600 square feet or less and one parking place
Okay.
above what the main residence needs, which you appear to have.
Mr. Chair, just,
Yeah.
obviously consideration is he has to meet all still building requirements,
Correct.
all regulations. So in fact, if he needs to hook up in order to be comply with the regulation, then it's mandated.
Mhm.
If there's an additional step he has to.
Oh,
take.
yeah, if you have to do something like separate the electric service.
Correct, it's mandated.
Do something, per building code.
Yep.
You have to follow through with
Yes,
that.
absolutely.
So I mean, one of the conditions that if we were to approve this, you would have to abide by all building fire regulations and any other pertinent state or local rules and regulations.
And even the fire carbon monoxide tester is connected to the ones in the main house as well. So if one goes off, they all go off.
Yeah, so whatever is in compliance with state and local codes, you'll have to make sure that's enforced.
Okay.
Questions from the board at this point? Okay, we're just gonna ask, is anyone in the public here that would like to offer input on this application? I'm not seeing anyone.
Okay.
So you've satisfied the conditions of the size. The other conditions you feel it's compatible with the neighboring land use, which is residential also.
Okay.
No, I'm asking you, do you
Oh.
feel it's compatible with the
Oh, absolutely.
neighboring
Yes.
land use?
Yes.
Yes. Do you feel that it's in the best interest of the convenience and welfare of the town to have?
Oh,
additional
absolutely.
housing?
Considering the housing situation where the rents
Seems-
are crazy,
Seems like a valid point.
to be able to have a family member live there for, a lot cheaper than renting for,
Do you foresee it causing any kind of nuisance or hazard?
I do not.
And you've testified that the parking will be accommodated on the property, so it's not gonna add to
Absolutely.
like traffic problems?
No, not at all.
All right. I believe you've satisfied those conditions, so unless there's any further questions or discussion, I'll ask for a motion.
I can make it if you'd like.
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve application 24-11, Stephen Delaire, owner and applicant 27A Laurel Lane, plat map 13E, lot 39, request for a special use permit to allow for an accessory dwelling unit in the R10 zoning district. The applicant has testified that the apartment's been there over 40 years. He's had his grandfather live there and
My sister.
other family members. He wasn't aware that it was needed to be, it was probably predated our laws, but he wasn't aware that he needed a special use permit. He's here before us to clean up the record and make everything proper, crossing the Ts and dotting the Is. The special use will be compatible with the neighboring land uses. He's testified it has really not changed anything. It's been there for 40 years with no complaints. There'll be a benefit for any future family members or people in this housing market. It won't create a hazard in the neighborhood. Didn't read my own writing. That's a real problem. The special use permit will be compatible with the community comprehensive plan. The state and Warren have decided that they'd like to see more ADU units. This one's already been there. And the public convenience and welfare will be served. He's also shown that he has 6 parking spaces. The existing unit magically meets all the requirements. It's just underneath 600 square feet. So it's really a pretty easy ask.
Conditions,
Comply with state, local, and building.
Comply with the state, local, and building laws,
fire,
fire,
et cetera,
et cetera,
all pertinent regulations,
Yep.
basically.
all pertinent regulations.
Any other amendments or conditions? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so you're approved.
Okay.
So for the next two applications, Mr. Holby will be recusing himself because he is in fact the applicant. And Mr. Alves, will be rejoining the board as a voting member. So we'll just take a moment here, yes. Oh, well, these two people are leaving. Oh, are you Tyler and Julie? No, you're Tyler. What? You want to hear about Barrett? Okay, so you're here to talk about Barrett.
Yes.
Then we'll proceed with the regular order. Okay. All right, are we ready? Oh, are you representing?
Yes.
Oh. So do you want to continue? Do you want to just take this in order? This is the attorney. This is not a member.
However.
Let's just proceed. We're going in the order that's on the agenda. So next, we have application 2412 and 2413. 12 is for W. Barrett Holby, owner and applicant, 62 Shore Drive, plat 17, lot 49. The request for a special use permit for an accessory dwelling unit in the R40 overlay. Also, Mr. Holby, under 2413, same address, is looking for a dimensional variance to construct an addition to the structure with less than required front and rear yard setbacks and greater than the allowed lot coverage in the R40 overlay district. Could we have a motion to combine the testimony for these two applications with the understanding there will be separate motions for the special use and variance?
I'll make a motion to
Is
combine.
there a second?
Second.
All approved?
Aye.
In favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so for purposes of the testimony, we will hear them concurrently for both applications. So now, if you'd like to come forward, please, and identify yourself for the stenographer.
Albert Gerard. Good evening.
And your address or place of business address.
9 County Street in Newport, Rhode Island.
Okay, and you are an attorney?
I am not an attorney. I'm a residential designer.
Okay, so you're a residential designer representing the applicant.
Correct.
All right, so if you want to go ahead and explain what this project entails, why you feel a special use meets the standards, and why you believe a variance is needed.
Mr. Holby approached me about designing a ADU unit above his garage, but also stated that his existing garage was undersized and not functional. So the idea was to kill two birds with one stone, make the garage larger, more functional, and then create the ADU on the second floor, which is less than the total is 556 square feet.
So there's an addition to the garage on the first floor.
Correct.
And then the new ADU is being built on top of it.
Correct.
Okay. And so then, well, maybe I should have the building official walk us through the setbacks because it's subject to this lot is under the size it's supposed to be. Right.
On the last page on the plot plan.
Yeah.
I created a spreadsheet that deals with the new Rhode Island codes for setbacks and.
Oh, is this that or is this that's yours?
Oh, that's okay.
He made his own spreadsheet. So let's just make sure we've got the facts correct. So the current lot is 12,500 square feet. Is that right?
Correct.
And 15,000 is what you're supposed to have in this. Yeah.
No, 15, that's 15% coverage.
No, so it's an R15, so you're supposed to have 15,000 square feet in an R15.
But-
He doesn't have 15,000, he has 12,500.
So what is the R40 overlay? Does that impact that?
So the
Why
R40,
needs this?
the R40 overlay goes, you go to the next district. So because it's 12.5, then the next district would be an R15.
So the next higher than 12.5 is a 15.
So that's in the overlay district, that's where you would go. So for tonight's hearing here that we're gonna go with, that would be considered an R15 of the 15,000 square foot.
So we're judging this based on the R15 standards as modified by the percentage of the lot area as compared to the R15 requirements. So I'm just gonna go through this so we all know what we're talking about here. So the side yard setback under the R15, you're supposed to have 15 feet. But because of the modification, you're supposed to have 12.5 square feet. And existing, it says you have 13. Is that correct?
This,
Yeah, I think you have that backwards.
I don't know. I'm going off this chart. It says existing 13.
Wouldn't that mean that's what's currently there?
He's got 13.
My understanding was that it was an R40 zone, so I designed this according to all the R40 specs. I knew nothing about the R15 regulations because on the map, it says it in everything that on the property records, it says an R40 zone.
So it's an R40 overlay. So the overlay zone, in the twisted overlay zone, it's how I explained, you go to the next zone district.
So I'm gonna have to plead the fifth on these setbacks because I don't know. I only know what I have written down here, not.
Isn't this the change?
No, because this is the 12. I get, for the building official, could you just explain I appreciate all the work you've done on the calculator. Can you
This
just,
wasn't a calculator, this was a program.
okay, well, whatever you titled it. Your tabulations are excellent. Can you just to make sure we all understand, can you explain each of the columns for us?
Okay, so basically what happens is under the new law, in a substandard lot, which this is a substandard lot because it doesn't meet the requirement of the 15,000 square feet, the percent difference would be the percent that you change your setbacks. So all your setbacks will go, they will be a minus that percentage from what's required, and your lot coverage would be plus that percentage. So in this instance, the new side yard setback would be 12.5 feet. The new rear yard setback would be 29, and the new front yard setback would be 29.
So you said,
Okay.
so Jason's saying something.
Oh, no, I think that's correct.
So essentially,
12.6.
so to make sure I'm reading this correctly, the current setback with this calculation needs to be 13 feet, but what they're asking for is 12.
Nope, he's saying the opposite.
Yeah,
So if you look at the headings, which I'm trying to clarify.
that's why I asked the questions. I can't read, I
Yeah,
guess.
the first column is supposedly the existing.
I think that may be a typographical error on the first column, so we may omit the first column, because I don't have this, you guys may have the actual score sheet. But that may have been printed in error by
Hold
me.
on. So, 12,500 over 15,000. So his lot is 83% of the size it's supposed to be.
Yes, so the calculations to the right, the substandard change, that is correct. I'm saying the existing, what's there now, I
May or may not.
yeah.
All right, so I'm just
trying
gonna
to find the.
I'm just gonna verify this. So 15 times 0.833 is 12.5. So the math works on that. Right, and then 35, I'm just gonna verify this, 35 times 0.833. 29, yes, and a little change, so that's right. So then the lot coverage, 20% is allowed. So we have to, add 16.7%, because he's 16.7% less than what's required. So we have to add that to that, so 20% times 1.167. 20% times 1.1. Yep, 23.33, so that makes sense. Existing lot width, 110, so that has to be multiplied by 110 times 0.833. I'm getting 91.63 for the lot width. If I take 110 multiplied by 83.3%. Let me check it again. 110 times 0.833. I'm getting 91.63 is the required lot width.
On our calculations, it's 81.
So what, so how do you get from, so what's the math to get from 110 to 81?
I have 100 foot as the width.
No, hold on, we're to, the required width in the zone is
Oh.
110 feet.
Let's check it on the calculator. Either way, either calculations, it would be under.
Hold on. 500. Wait, let me go back here. So are we agreeing that the lot with the 83.3% of 110 is 91.63?
Yes.
And that would
Okay.
still be under the 110, right?
It's under the 100, which is the lot width.
He has 100, but only 91 is now required, so he's good there.
Correct.
Then the allowable lot coverage, he's allowed 23.33%
And proposed,
of the 12,500. So 12,500 times 0.2333. I'm coming up with 2,916 square feet is allowed. 0.25. Or is he allowed, so the new lot coverage, it's supposed to be 20, he's allowed 23.33. Is it 23.33 of the size of his lot? Or of the 15,000?
Of the 15,000. So he's 23.33.
Yeah.
Is the percent
He's
of what of the 15,000?
But he doesn't have 15,000.
But that's the number that we're using.
All right, so he's allowed to cover up to 23.33% of the 15,000, even though he doesn't have 15,000.
Yes.
Okay. So 15. And that comes up to the 3,500. So he's allowed to cover 23.33% of 15,000, which is 3,500.
Which is over the 3,000.
So is that the only thing we have to worry about?
Okay, so let's try to
I get
figure this
lost
out
too
here.
easily with the math.
So
Yeah.
lot size and lot coverage is the only thing that we're looking for consideration on, right?
So he's allowed to cover 3,500 square feet. So how many square feet are you proposing to cover?
Proposed additional lot cover, the total proposed is 3843. So existing is 3239. We're adding 604, which totals 3843.
All right, so you want 3,843, you're allowed 3,500. So the difference between those 343 square feet
Correct.
would be variance for lot coverage. All right, so then you're required to have 12.5 feet on the side, which you have. Is that correct? The two sides, you each have you have an excess of 12.5 feet?
Yes,
Okay, so those are fine.
yeah.
And the rear yard, do you have an excess of 29 feet?
No,
Okay.
what's proposed is 24'9" and
Hold on.
9/16.
This is going
Call it 24'10".
24'10". So we had 29 foot, 1.5-ish. Let's just say we could say 29 feet was allowed and you want 24'10". That's on one of the sides. I'm sorry, that's on the rear.
That's the rear.
This is the rear. Then in the front, you're also allowed 29.167. So what do you have in the front?
Well, it's existing is in the front is
Is
only.
that new porch doing anything or not?
No, that's an existing porch on the front of the house.
Oh, that's existing.
Yeah, the diagonally shaded.
No.
This.
Oh, that's the front?
Yeah, so.
Yeah, Shore Drive is
So
the front.
Yeah, so there's a discrepancy here.
Okay.
The front is not 110, the front is 100. That's why your calculations are off.
This is.
All right, so let's back up. So what is that number?
We have them-
9'4".
Should we have
I'm
him
sorry.
mark a piece of paper so we're not guessing on this? What's the front, what's the sides?
So this is the front.
We're gonna show this to you and then.
So this is the front right here.
Shore Drive is the
Shore-
front.
Yeah, Shore Drive is the front. Yeah.
This is the side yard setback.
Now, this setback line is drawn
That's
at
like
9'4.5".
Well, that's,
Let's see what I'm done yet.
oh, maybe that was on the, or I don't know what that came from. We've established that the side yard setback has to be 12.5 feet. So regardless of what that is, it looks like the structure is more than 12.5 feet.
Absolutely, yeah, it's well
The
within
side
the
is
side.
not a problem.
No.
The rear is supposed to be 29.167, and we've just talked about, if you want 24'10".
24'10".
Okay, and the front is currently 12'6", and that's also supposed to be 29.1.
Yes, and that is the existing structure that's already there.
We have to, because that's non-conforming, we have to memorialize that we're accepting that non-conformance. So we're gonna accept the front yard setback of 12'6", where 29.167 is required. The sides are in compliance.
Yeah.
And the rear yard, he wants 24'10", where 29.167 is required.
So basically, it's a variance of 5 foot.
Basic, less than 5, 4'2", 3, 4'3", something. And then his lot coverage, he wants 3843, where 3500. Sorry, this is taking some time, but the powers that be of the state legislature have decided to make the mathematics far more complicated.
I understand. Had I known about the R15 zoning, I would have had this all sorted out.
I think we've got it straightened out now. So
Is that diagram done?
very nearly.
Yeah.
And Andrew, Mr. Chair, for the record, just to clarify that the existing lot width on the new would, because you were calculating at 110, it's supposed to be calculated at 100, so that would go down to 83.33.
It's 29.
So they're getting,
Yeah. That's what's required.
And it doesn't,
Yeah.
they have to require it,
Yeah.
just in case this is,
16,
just for the record.
So it's 83.3% of 100, not 83.3%.
110 is what
This is
required, but they only have 100.
Yeah, 3,500,
What they have is 100.
and they got 3843.
Percentage of the money.
Well, then how come he's getting a percentage increase on the lot area? Not that he has, but that's in,
Because that's how everything comes down,
I think
but
so.
lot coverage
That's the
goes
difference,
up.
right? Yeah. And then the difference. on
Right,
this
but
one
it would
is-
be, so we're adding 17% lot
Yeah.
coverage, give or take, 17% lot coverage
And then 35.
to the percentage of his lot, not the percentage of
38.
what his lot
Yeah,
should
38
be.
is what they-
Okay,
Well, then I don't think we did that.
I think so.
correct, so.
Because that was the number I came up with. So if he's getting 16.7% more of everything, then if his current lot, because lot coverage is gonna go up, he's allowed, yeah, so he's allowed 20%.
Right,
So
so,
it goes up by 16.7% more, so that gives him 23.33% lot. So of his lot size, of the 12,500. Because it can't work both ways.
Yes, yes.
All right, so it is then 2,916. Where are you getting that number from?
So he's got
let's see, so.
He has 12,005. He needs to take 20% of that. Times 0.2.
Yes.
All right, and then add that
Plus,
time, no,
16.7%. It's 2917.
so that's what I came up with essentially. All right, so he gets, so actually his lot coverage. You want 3843 and you're allowed 2916. All right, so then for the lot width, he gets 16.7% more than his existing width of 100. Which means he gets 116.7 feet.
Correct.
Chair, just,
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of numbers here.
Yeah.
Any approval can basically just be conditioned on the building official verifying all
Yeah.
numbers. To make it valid for the record.
I think I'd like to invite Mr. Sakarchi in for the next meeting to please do the math.
Why don't they just pass down a calculator formula when they do the next account? Themselves, they can write the calculator?
So and that's the problem right now. We had to form our own program. And there is a couple of glitches here and we're picking up on it. But I think moving forward, I think we could, like the solicitor said, we could hear this case and I can do any type of calculations, but the calculations that I've done already, there's a variance that's going to be needed for these two applications.
So, yes, so we have a variance on the lot coverage and we have a variance on the front yard setback. So those are the two items in terms of variances. Then he needs a special use in order to have the accessory dwelling unit because he's less than an R20.
And he's altering an existing.
And he's altering an existing building. So I think we've got what we know, what we believe you're asking for. So can you then now explain the accessory dwelling unit? It has to meet the standards for the special use, that it's not a nuisance or a hazard, it's compatible to the land use, compatible with the comprehensive town plan, it's going to serve the public convenience and welfare. Can you speak to the special use and how this meets those conditions?
I was informed by Mr. Holby.
Yeah.
That it complies with all the requirements that are being requested.
So it's less than 600 square feet.
Yes, it's compatible with the neighborhood and does not create any hazard
So
whatsoever.
in what way is it compatible?
Just that there are other houses.
It's a residential use.
Correct.
And it's in a residential area,
Yes,
okay?
There's-
Not creating a nuisance or hazard. Does it have the one extra parking space?
yes, he's got a large garage,
He's got a
driveway.
garage, plus he has a garage.
Yes,
So so your representation, and he has more than enough parking spaces to accommodate the main residence, plus the requirement for the ADU.
yes.
Okay. How's it gonna serve the public convenience and welfare?
How does it serve the public? Well, it will serve Mr. Holby quite well in his elder years and also is potentially his son who may be living there in the interim.
So it provides more housing variety options.
Absolutely.
in the town.
Yeah.
And it's compatible with the town plan because,
Well, because it's adding additional affordable housing. for-
which is the goal of the town.
Yes,
So those are your justifications then,
Yes.
why you believe it meets the special use.
yes.
Okay, so then with regard to the variances, so in the front, you said it's an existing setback that you're not on.
Not at all. Yeah, not touching the front of the house.
So would you say that's a result of the pre-existing condition of the lot size in the building?
Correct. The front,
And, yeah,
yes.
Mr. Holby didn't cause the front to be in that position.
That front, I don't know when that front was constructed. I have no idea.
So you.
It hasn't been altered.
Correct.
I'm not changing, we're
You're
not
not
changing
changing.
any of that.
And then, all right, so the lot coverage really is, I mean, the setback, it's there. You're not changing it.
Well, we do need a variance on the rear setback.
Yeah, okay. So explain, why you could not design the addition. What was the hindrance to design the addition in such a way that it met the requirement for the rear setback?
Well, Mr. Holby requested that we increase the size of the garage. He's got currently a two-car garage. One bay is not feasible. It's not used as a garage because there's an interior partitions of the inside of the house actually takes a good portion of that bay, the garage. The doors themselves are very small. They're very short. He can't park his car, his truck in the garage. They're only 7 foot high.
So
Garage doors, as well as they're very narrow. So we want to just open it up. So he basically wanted to create an additional garage bay and create a usable two-car garage.
And is it
basically.
safe to assume that if you were to shrink the width of that bay by the required 5 feet to make the setback work, it would no longer be a functional garage bay?
Not at all. No.
So in order to get the two functional garage bays, taking into account whatever interior partitions are obstructing.
Correct.
The garage.
Yeah.
You needed an additional 14 feet
That's correct.
to exceed that,
Yes.
okay? So then with regard to the lot coverage,
Yes.
again, you'll have to justify why you need more lot coverage than is allowed, and I think you can explain again about why.
Well, the additional garage bay would require that it adds additional lot coverage.
And I think we know the house as it is without the addition, I believe, is over what the allowable lot coverage is in the first place. From what we calculated, that you were allowed 2,916 square feet of lot coverage. But I think the existing house may already be bigger than that. Is that true?
The existing
Before
lot
you do the
coverage
addition,
is
the whole-
3,239.
So the existing structure is already over
Yes.
what you're required. So you're asking to further increase to accommodate this garage.
Yes, to accommodate the garage and also yeah, to make a more functional garage for him to be able to park his truck inside the garage.
All right, so you've got the 14 feet you talked about. You need that to make two functional garage bays.
Yes.
You're also making the garage deeper towards the back by this narrow strip of addition at the back. Of
That's correct.
What is the purpose of that?
He has a workshop back there that is very small and tight, and he just wanted to open it up a bit.
So that's to accommodate space to make a more functional workshop.
Yes.
At the back. of the garage.
Yes.
And then where does the accessory dwelling unit on top, does it like align with that?
Well, the second floor, it does not. It's inset. The second floor is built up on top of the first floor, but the accessory structure is contained within that whole unit. So, so that the rest of the area outside of the accessory unit is storage space.
Right, so you're still going to have 3 garage doors, but only 2 of them will be legitimate functioning vehicle bays.
Correct.
Because the first one was obstructed by
Interior
partitions,
petition, existing interior petition.
and it looks like part of a stair.
Yeah,
So the 1 bay is not functional for a vehicle, and you're creating 2 bays. You're creating the addition to make 2 bays that are functional for the vehicle.
yes,
And the extension out the back is to accommodate space for more functional work.
correct.
All right, I think we've got that. And the stair is new to serve the accessory dwelling unit, or is it already a stair?
There is already a stair there. It just needs to be changed a bit in terms of the rise and run.
Okay, so you're gonna modify that. And did you say how many square feet of living space was in the accessory dwelling?
556.
556, okay. Yeah, I think we've got the particulars now established of the, what we're looking for, the dimensions of everything, why you're doing it.
I do apologize for not being clear on this.
Well, I
didn't
don't think it
realize
would
that.
have mattered, because even if you had been clear, the mathematics from the new state law would have made it very convoluted. anyways.
Okay.
So I don't think it really hurt that it wasn't right from the beginning.
All right.
Because we would have had to go through that anyways. Do we have specific questions of the representative of the applicant about either the special use and its conditions or the variance and its reasons?
Just going back to the way, so is the plan to use the existing municipal barrels for trash?
Oh,
You're not planning on putting a dumpster in?
no, absolutely not. No.
All right, and you feel that the trash, the residential bins are gonna be adequate to service this?
Do you mean ongoing from
Yeah.
when it's built?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And you can go to Public Works and ask for a second set. If you have the primary house and an accessory dwelling unit, you can ask for a second set of bins if you need that. to
I see.
Accommodate an independent apartment essentially.
I see.
Nothing else at present? Okay. Is there anyone in the public who wants to comment on this application? I'm not seeing anyone. Okay, so we'll bring it back to the board and the applicant. So by the testimony you've given, it's your representation that this accessory dwelling unit satisfies all the conditions of the special use in addition to the size requirement of the unit itself.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and based on the testimony you provided with regard to the variance, it's your opinion that the need for the variance is due to the goals that the project needs to achieve and the existing way the house is situated on the lot and the dimensions thereof.
Well said. Correct.
Okay.
Thanks.
And you would agree that the construction of this dwelling unit would need to comply with all building, fire, and other regulatory approvals?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have anything else we want to inquire of the representative of the applicant? Okay. Does anyone have a motion ready on, first we'll do the special use to determine whether we can have this accessory dwelling.
I can bang this one out.
Okay,
Let's see. I will move approval of application 24-12, W Barrett Holby, owner and applicant, 62 Shore Drive. Plat map 17, lot 49, request for a special use permit to allow an accessory dwelling unit in the R40 overlay zoning district. In approving the special use permit, we will note that it is compatible with the neighboring land uses. This is a residential neighborhood, and this will be a residential accessory dwelling unit intended to be occupied by a next generation family member who is currently living at home. As such, it will not create a nuisance or a hazard in the neighborhood. The person currently meant to be occupying this unit is already a member of the neighborhood. It will be compatible with the comprehensive community plan. This will help to add varied housing stock to the town of Warren, and as such, the public convenience and welfare will be served. We will note that this particular application does meet the requirements for an ADU special use permit in that the actual accessory dwelling unit is under 600 square feet. We will further condition this approval on the accessory dwelling unit meeting all applicable health, safety, fire, and building code regulations. Oh, and there is ample parking on the site to allow for one additional parking space to be dedicated for this ADU.
Okay, are there any amendments or other conditions on the special use? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the special use is approved 5-0. Now, could we please have a motion on the dimensional variance?
I will move approval of application 24-13, W. Barrett Colby, owner and applicant, 62 Shore Drive, plat map 17, lot 49, request for a dimensional variance to construct an addition to the structure with less than the required front and rear yard setbacks and greater than the allowed lot coverage in an R40 zoning district. In approving this variance, we will note that the hardship is due to the unique characteristics of the subject land or structure. Many, or at least two of the variances requested are existing non-conforming. The front setback is shorter than it should be, and the lot coverage is more than it should be. This hardship is not the result of any prior action of the applicant. The nature and siting of the house is what it is, and this application is solely for the applicant's desire to be able to have an additional dwelling unit on their property. Granting of this request variance will not alter the general character of the surrounding area. We have heard testimony that parking will still be available on site. We have reviewed the renderings for the plan, and it seems to be consistent with the general character of the house. And we will note that the relief is the least relief. The relief to be granted is the least relief necessary. We have heard testimony that the sizing of the additional structures have been considered and are intended to provide a second bay, a second usable vehicle bay in the garage, and to expand to a reasonable size the workshop and maintenance facilities that are at the back of the garage.
Did we get rid of the least necessary one?
Correct, we did.
So
Oh, well, all right.
this is out.
Never mind.
He can have as much as we decide to give him.
Excellent. That being said, we will codify that the variances requested are a front setback of 12 foot 6 inches where 29 is required after appropriate reduction math. A rear setback of 29 foot 10 where 24 foot 10 where 29 is required.
29, yeah, 29 required.
And a total lot coverage of 3,843 square feet where 2,916 square feet is required. We would further note that if this variance were not to be granted, it would constitute more than a mere inconvenience to the applicant, as this project would not be able to go forward and they would be forced to deal with the current hardship of the one interior bay of the garage, where the second is obstructed by internal housing partitions, and their current household would be more densely populated than it would otherwise need to be.
The mere inconvenience is still good, right?
Correct.
We said building, fire and all that.
Building,
Oh, we
fire,
already said
safety, yep, building codes.
Okay, is there any further conditions or amendments? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the dimensional relief is granted 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so Mr. Elves will now return to the position of alternate member, and Mr. Colby will return to his seat as a voting member. So the final application is number 2414. Tyler and Julie Carrero, owner, and Tyler Carrero, applicant. 42 Vernon Street, plat 14, lot 37, requesting a special use permit to change from a two-family to a three-family residence in the R10. Please identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Tyler Crow. I own and reside at 22 Vernon Street in Warren.
Okay, so stop right there. We have to go through the mathematics here. So this is an R10.
Correct.
So it's supposed to be 10,000 square feet. He has 6,550. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So, and we'll just do this.
So what you're gonna look at here
Yep.
is the minimum lot width that you need for a multifamily apartment under section 3279.
Yeah,
So the current for three-family dwelling is 72 feet, but under the new law, that 72 feet will be deducted down to 47, which would give, they would have the amount of lot width to make this a three-family.
all right, so and what about the setbacks?
It's already, this is a current structure that they just want to convert the third floor into an apartment.
But the setbacks are already non-conforming, is that
Mhm.
correct?
So it doesn't have the setbacks would have bearing on this because it's already, there's gonna be no adding to the existing structure. It's
And
just
we're
gonna-
not increasing the coverage.
No.
So basically, the only thing we're looking at is the width of the lot, which is existing, obviously.
Yes, so he
And
had,
there's a difference between a two-family width, and now he wants to go to a three-family.
yes, so the two-family width would meet the normal setback.
Yeah,
And the three-family falls under the multifamily residence. So like I said, for a three-family, you would need 72 square feet.
72 feet
Excuse me,
length. Those are
72 feet
width.
width. And 9,500 square feet, but again, that comes down, that gets reduced under the new calculation to 6,222. And they have 6,550, so they meet the
So he's got enough for that.
minimum lot and they meet the minimum width under the new law.
So he just needs, so he doesn't need relief on any variances.
This is
There aren't
just a straight up.
Special use.
Yes,
Because it's under an R20 and he wants, or sorry, we're not talking about that. It's required to have a special use in this zone for a multifamily.
So do we have to worry about the math at all on this?
Yeah, well, no, you don't have to worry about it, but it's before you because of that. So if this new law wasn't in place, this wouldn't be able to become.
Oh,
before
this
you.
would be a variance if it were not
Yes,
for. the-
so I just did the math
Yeah.
to show that. Under
He
the-
doesn't need any variance,
Doesn't need any variances under the new law.
but he needs a special use because the use tables say this use is allowed by special use in this.
Because if you were to look at this just as is, then you would question as to say, well, they don't meet the requirement, but because the new law, they do meet the requirement.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
this,
We might as well throw this book away for all the help it's we need now. All right, so you're here for a special use permit, so
I am, yep.
please describe how this proposed change from the two-family to the three-family is going to meet the standards that are required for a special use.
Okay, so it's going to provide more housing opportunities for the town of Warren.
Okay, it's providing housing opportunities.
Mhm.
Is it going to create a nuisance or a hazard? What's the parking situation?
The parking, I can do 6 parking spots in my driveway, maybe even 7. So it'll conform to the neighborhood and parking, you can park comfortably, be able to get in and out. of the
So you've got
property.
enough spaces for the existing 2 units that you
Mhm.
already have, and plus you have enough spaces to add this third unit
That's correct.
on your property?
Yes.
Okay. It's, in what way is it, compatible with the town's comprehensive plan?
So like I said, it's going to provide more housing opportunities for the town of Warren. So it'll be another place for someone to live in
Okay.
Warren.
And do you believe it's compatible with the neighboring land uses? Just describe what else is happening.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I believe it is. To the south of me, there's a multifamily house, and directly to the west of me, there's a multifamily house as well. It's a 3-family on the west of me, and south of me, directly south, I want to say maybe it's a 4-family, maybe.
So there's a
5-family.
mix of
Yeah.
residential types of multifamily type of housing. in
Definitely,
here.
yeah, definitely.
And so you feel this would be compatible?
I do, yeah.
Regarding the parking situation, I know you said you can fit 6,
I think
maybe
he
7.
said fit, I don't know if he said cram.
Okay, fit.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to be facetious. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, right, I understand.
Can you just describe to me how that's actually laid out? Like, do you have a driveway? Do you have a lot? Is there a garage?
Yeah, so I have a detached 2-car garage, and I might be able to fit a parking spot, just west of the west garage door. So I park my car there, my wife parks in the west garage bay, my tenant parks in the east garage bay. And then I have, 2 other spots I indicated there in my little diagram. I can fit 2 more spots for, potential tenants on the third floor.
But he only technically needs with.
4.5.
No, it's 1 per, right? So he needs 3.
Yeah, he only needs 3, so.
One better.
Yeah,
but-
yeah, it's quite a big driveway, yeah.
Sorry, what do we
One
say?
change,
It's
one.
one per,
Yeah.
one per dwelling unit. So you only need a total of 3 and you said it's 6. We just want to, we'll get to that in one moment. We just want to make sure that it's a reasonable and feasible parking plan. We've
Yeah.
had other times when people have come before us and said, yeah, we can fit 12 cars in
Yeah.
here, but when you look at it, there's no physical, if you
There'd
were
be a lot.
gone and picked up the car and set it down. you
Yes,
could
I
do
understand.
it.
I understand what you mean. Yeah, it's pretty,
He's fine with.
Yeah.
6'3", he's fine.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just trying to read.
Yeah, I know for me though, I appreciate having the off street because the burn's kind of tight, so.
yeah, oh, yeah.
Sorry,
Yep.
pointed out.
Right here.
And
So
that is under.
it's 32,
Such
3247.
Under the 3-family dwelling. A star.
This is R10, correct?
Yes, it's R10.
Yeah.
All right, so let's ask the question of Mr. Solicitor. So there's an asterisk next to the special use permit in the use tables for the R10 for the multifamily dwelling. And there's some language here about it specifically. It has to have both a front and rear interior stairway. So it seems to indicate 2 stairways are required.
Correct. So what I would suggest is just make it a condition that he has to comply with the fire code or the fire marshal, whatever way he formulates that, if it's an escape ladder, he just has to comply. I think that's the safest way of doing that.
There's only one way up there now.
Yes, yep.
Yep, I would put it definitely as a
Yeah.
condition.
So whatever we approve, it's not an approval of the plans that you've submitted.
Mhm.
It's approval of permission to have a 3rd apartment.
Gotcha.
How you build the 3rd apartment is going to be subject to building and fire code.
Of course, yep.
So just because you've submitted a plan here doesn't mean we're giving you the blessing that this is okay.
I understand. Thank you.
And what's the square footage going to be of the apartment?
So it's approximately 900 square feet. It's quite big up there.
Okay, good, because it requires a minimum.
908.
Good. Sorry, I'm all mathed out. I can't-
Well, these
know, right?
these little tricky asterisks in here, we have to be very careful.
Yeah.
Oh, good, that you're not modifying the building, so that's good. 800.
It does
Okay.
require front and rear interior.
That's what we were
So-
just talking
So the
about.
fire escape probably is out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so to the applicant,
Mm.
the current access to the 3rd floor is an interior stairway, correct?
Yes, at the rear of the house, yep.
All right, the way the ordinance reads, you need to have a front and a rear stairway, and they both need to be interior.
Okay.
Is
Yep.
that gonna,
It's, yeah, we can make it happen. Yeah, there's a front, there's like a front staircase at the front of my house. So it goes to the second apartment in mine. So we would have to make it work. Yeah, if you guys require it, I'll have to make it work. I could do a
So,
staircase.
the ordinance requires it, and we have.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, no problem.
yeah, so could the fire department overrule that and say a fire escape is sufficient in their opinion?
If that's the way that the board is leaning towards, then Ms. Nystrom's, how I would take care of that is amend the agenda on the floor for the variance for that particular requirement. Therefore, it's null and void. However, make a condition, it's got to comply with all fire regulations.
Yeah, because they can always go to the
I
fire.
think that will block that and will not be an issue. At the same time, we'll make sure that all fire regulations are covered.
Is that gonna be a notice issue since we're adding a variance with special
I
use?
think, let me just take a
Well,
quick peek at the.
Could we not say it's a condition of the special use that the fire department's determination of the types of egress
You
will
could.
supersede?
You could, correct.
Yeah, because
And I'm okay with that either way.
I think that's a better way to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you
Okay,
can always
that's
go, you can always go in front of the fire prevention board
Yeah.
too.
Okay, yeah, we'll say the fire department's
okay.
judgment
As far as both staircases.
will we'll let the fire department supersede or make their own interpretation of how the access and egress are to be.
I appreciate that, because the staircase, it's original to the house. The house was built in 1875, so it's a beautiful staircase, so I would love to not alternate if I don't have to, but
Yeah.
if I need to, I'll do
We're
whatever you
gonna
guys
leave it
want.
up to the fire
Yeah,
department
definitely.
to
Yep.
work with you to decide what is appropriate,
Awesome.
because we're not
Thank
a
you.
board of fire code appeal.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other questions regarding his satisfying the conditions of the special use?
Trash, I assume there's gonna, you could be using the municipal barrels that are, I'm sure you guys are already using.
Yeah, I have two trash and two.
You can
recycling.
go ask for a third set
Yeah,
for your new tenant.
okay, thank you.
I hate to be the trash guy, I'm always asking.
So just if I may, that is actually a good thing because we've recently found properties that have municipal trash when they shouldn't have municipal trash. So moving forward, that is a good practice to do, to ask, because anything over 4, then they have to have privatized trash.
Is it more than 4 or 4 and more?
More than 4.
So you can have up to 4 residences and that's still municipal trash.
Yes.
Once we get beyond 4,
Not
non-municipal.
being the crazy trash man.
Yeah.
Okay.
We do have a shortage of bins though, so be careful telling people to get more bins because we're trying to
Oh,
get
does
bins.
someone want to come to my house and pick up the second set we don't use?
Oh, well.
They'll be there tomorrow.
They
I
can
could
come
use
get
another
'em.
recycle bin.
Okay, so we had nothing at this time. Is there anyone, we'll have to ask if there's anyone in the public that wants to offer any input on this application. I don't see anyone present, so we'll take that as a no. Is there anything further you want to offer to the board regarding why you feel the special use is appropriate for this property?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or discussion amongst the board? No. Okay, is there a motion on this application?
Want me to take a stab at this?
Well, yeah, by all means.
I'll make a motion to approve application 24-14. Property owner Tyler and Julie Carrero, 22 Vernon Street, Warren, Rhode Island, assessing plat 14, lot 37. Do we have to add?
It's a special
A
use
special use for, what do we have?
to go from
For the
2 to
third apartment on the 3rd floor. Are we adding anything on the fire, on the?
That'll be a,
Correct.
that'll be a condition at the end. So
Okay.
if you just go through the general standards for special
The
use,
special use is compatible with the neighboring uses. The neighborhood is comprised of many multi-families. The special use will not create a hazard to the neighborhood. There's plenty of off-street parking and there's no expansion of the building size. The special use permit is compatible with community standards. It increases our housing stock. And public convenience and welfare is served. Additional housing stock.
and he meets the requirements of the at least 800 square feet.
The requirements of additionally of at least 800 square feet.
And then you can add the condition about what the fire department.
So, how do we want to avoid that again?
So, the fire department's judgment, for egress from the apartment will supersede, any requirements in the ordinance. Are there any other conditions or amendments?
The additional dwelling unit will need to meet all health and safety, fire, and building code requirements.
Anything else? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so special uses.
Thank you
passed.
very much. Thank you.
Okay, does anyone have any administrative notes, absences coming up, anything of that nature? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Barrett, did you have something? Oh, this is Ralph.
I might not be around in June.
You may not be here for June, all right.
I mean,